Hi, and welcome to LinkedIn for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Julia Zata, a LinkedIn strategist and ghostwriter, and lover of all things practical when it comes to visibility strategies. This podcast is for service-based business owners who want to build their brand on LinkedIn, attract new clients, collaborators, and speaking engagements without overthinking every post or sounding like a corporate robot. And yes, we're going to keep it actionable and fun. Let's dive in. Hey, it's Julia. Today I'm answering a question by one of my Content Hub members who wants some clarity and focus about how to share spicy opinions on LinkedIn without being polarizing or dramatic or clickbaity. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you have any questions you'd like me to answer on the podcast, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. I hope to answer it on a future episode. Today I'm answering this question about spicy opinions. It says, by definition, I guess spicy opinions are going to be polarizing. How do we share spicy opinions thoughtfully? I love this question. I think it has possibly a lot of us confused. And so my take on spicy opinions is that, first of all, spicy opinions are also called hot takes. And it's about taking a stance, sharing the hill that we'll die on. And the purpose here is not really to be polarizing, but to show our audience who we are, what our opinions are, what we believe in. It helps to debunk myths that keep our people stuck and clear out confusion that's making them struggle unnecessarily. Janine Jacobs is a stylist I follow on Instagram, and she explained it in a way that really made sense. She said that the idea actually comes from Donald Miller's Building a Story brand, and the basic concept is to find a villain that we can pit ourselves against. This villain isn't a person, but an idea, and the whole reason that we pit ourselves against this is to help our target audience. So, for example, Janine, who's a stylist for women and middle age, in her content, she pits herself against the fashion industry because the fashion industry preys on women's insecurities. And she's a feminist and she is pro feeling empowered by your style and how you dressed rather than trying to fit a mold that is demeaning to women in the first place. So that's a great stance to have. And her content is doing very well. It's taken off. She's quite political. I love her. And so it really helps people who share the same views gather around her. Another influencer that I follow is Shannon McKinstry. She's a marketer specializing in Instagram, and the villain that she pits herself against are gurus, when she says gurus, what she means is misinformation that keeps her audience confused and overwhelmed when it comes to content creation, because we know that there's tons of opinions out there, tons of different ideas and best practices and rules, and so she really pits herself against people who are selling rules and strategies that they say are going to work hands down, because social media is always changing. Everyone's audience is different. Every person's journey, they're at a different stage in their business and journey. And so you can't really sell a rule book and so that's what she pits herself against. And another way that she shares spicy opinions on LinkedIn especially is by talking about how social media managers are undervalued. And an example post that took off on LinkedIn, she says this: unfortunately, when someone asks, can someone recommend a social media manager? It usually means we're looking to hire a social media strategist, copywriter, videographer, brand coach, data analyst, editor, graphic designer, and community manager for $10 an hour. And that's why social media management is no longer a role that can be looked at as an afterthought or one that gets paid pennies. Times have changed, and it's time for business owners to understand that hiring a social media marketer is essential, and you need to budget accordingly for their expertise. So this is a hot take. It's true. People in our industry peers, they love hearing that message. And so her spicy opinion in this case is about saying
what her audience can't say out loud, because if you're a social media manager who's looking for work, saying this kind of stuff might make your target audience feel like you're criticizing them. And she's in a position as an educator, as somebody who now teaches social media managers, to defend, quote unquote, the rights of social media managers. But basically these posts are written for social media managers and they love it. So I hope this perspective is helpful. When you're sharing hot takes, they're always benefiting your target audience. So a mistake that I've come across is to go against your target audience by accident. Like when you're frustrated with clients who end up not being ideal clients, you can take a stance that is disempowering to your target audience. And so you always have to remember that your hot take is about defending your target audience, is about helping them in some capacity. An example for me recently is that a hot take that I have is about storytelling versus educational content. These are not separate types of content. They actually go together. And the reason that I take this stance is because for a long time I felt inadequate, because I kept reading about how the new trend now is storytelling, and what am I even doing by sharing educational content? Believing that really made me go down this insane rabbit hole of thinking that I needed to know how to tell stories, kind of like a novelist. And I started reading more fiction. I joined Toastmasters. I did all kinds of stuff until I realized, hey, it's actually simpler than that. Like storytelling is just sharing how you saved a client time, how you solved a problem for them, what kind of results I was able to achieve for somebody, or how I impacted them, which is something I've been doing all along. But for whatever reason, this focus on storytelling really made me feel inadequate and confused about what content I should be producing. And so I just posted about it today. It's probably going to flop. The post doesn't look the way I meant it to, but it doesn't matter, because this is a stance I can take more than once. I can tweak my messaging. I can tweak my wording until it hits home in the way that I want it to. But the idea is to debunk a myth, to create clarity, to help people who are confused and stuck get unstuck. So the idea isn't to be polarizing. Of course, on social media, on the internet, everybody has an opinion. And when you take a stance, if you're lucky, people will come out and disagree with you. It's not a bad thing. It's just a normal thing that happens on social media. So as long as you're sharing your real opinion, as long as you're not trying to actually be manipulative, there's nothing wrong with having your spicy opinion. And in a way, it's a form of educational content as well. And on social media, we need to be prepared to distance ourselves a little bit from our content, from people's reactions, because we can't control their reactions. We can only control our messaging and who we want it to affect and how we want it to affect them. So a lot of times I know that I have been very cautious about sharing my views and my opinions, because I didn't want the lashback that may come from it. But a lot of the mentors I've had and people who are further along say that having an opinion and creating controversy is good for your brand, because it shows who you are, it allows the right people to find you, and it repels the people who don't like you or aren't aligned. So that's the point of having a hot take or a spicy opinion, is to give your brand some color, is to show what your values are, what your beliefs are, so that the people who want to work with you or want to follow you can find you, and so that people who don't will be repelled, because there's nothing worse than selling something to a person who then is going to hate every minute of it because they don't align. So anyways, I hope this was helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure to leave them in the comment section if you're listening to this on Spotify. And if not, DM me on LinkedIn and let's talk about it. I'd love to answer more questions. Talk soon. Thanks for tuning in to LinkedIn for Entrepreneurs. If you found this episode helpful, please share it on LinkedIn or on your favorite social media platform. And if you really want to make my day, leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more business owners find this show. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Hi, and welcome to LinkedIn for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Julia Zata, a LinkedIn strategist and ghostwriter, and lover of all things practical when it comes to visibility strategies. This podcast is for service-based business owners who want to build their brand on LinkedIn, attract new clients, collaborators, and speaking engagements without overthinking every post or sounding like a corporate robot. And yes, we're going to keep it actionable and fun. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome to LinkedIn for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Julia Zata, a LinkedIn strategist and ghostwriter, and lover of all things practical when it comes to visibility strategies. This podcast is for service-based business owners who want to build their brand on LinkedIn, attract new clients, collaborators, and speaking engagements without overthinking every post or sounding like a corporate robot. And yes, we're going to keep it actionable and fun. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome to LinkedIn for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Julia Zata, a LinkedIn strategist and ghostwriter, and lover of all things practical when it comes to visibility strategies. This podcast is for service-based business owners who want to build their brand on LinkedIn, attract new clients, collaborators, and speaking engagements without overthinking every post or sounding like a corporate robot. And yes, we're going to keep it actionable and fun. Let's dive in.